Good day, everyone. It's high time that I return with a review of the school run strategy. As you know, the settings that we have back-tested over the last few weeks and months determined that we shouldn't trade this strategy in the month of May, hence my absence. But now that June has come and rolled around, I thought it's good to see what would it have been like if we traded May. I'm also today showing on the chart how does our strategy compare to just simply buying and holding the DAX. We shouldn't really consider a strategy worthwhile if it can't outperform a buy and hold strategy. Otherwise, what's the point? So we can see at least that with the buy and hold, we would have netted 4,030 Aussie dollars if we traded. Oh, wait a minute, this is probably at one lot a point, and I think my breakout's still set to 3. Right, so buy and hold would have been 3 times that much. It's 12,000. Okay, so buy and hold would actually have outperformed this strategy. That's a pity, but only just. Okay, some of you might still want to avoid periods like this massive drawdown here when you buy and hold, and even over here. So I guess still worthwhile reviewing our strategy regardless. Okay, so moving on from that disappointing discovery, let's have a look at where we are compared to the settings that we had determined. So I'm still running the same settings. Minimum candle size of 20. We won't take a trade if we are experiencing a 30-minute bar that is larger than 90 points. The buffer before you take the trade is 3 points on either side of the high or the low. And I've dropped the trailing stop. It didn't really make any sense, and it doesn't really make much of a difference. Well, on the scalping strategy, I shall say. So as long as your TP is 68, trailing stop really is not going to come into play when you have a stop loss of 90 and a TP of 68. The exponential average is still being used as a trend direction filter, and we don't trade Mondays, and then these are the months we would typically not trade. All right. So moving on, let's zoom in a little. Now let's just look at May only. Now at this stage you can see no trades being taken in May. So what I will do is I'll switch May on and we'll see what that would have done for us, right? Give me a sec here, I'll get into the code. Right. So May is going, and let's run it. So now don't pay any attention to the final profit here. That's going to change dramatically. But we will look here now at the start of May. At the start of May, the strategy was sitting on 17,220-ish. Right? Should give me a value there. 225 actually. 17,225.8. And then the end of May, we were finishing at 16,837.90. So losing about 400, 400, yeah, losing in the region of $400, just slightly less, about 390, 380, somewhere there. So certainly, while May started off well, it then underperformed and would not have been worth trading it. Okay. Let's put May back into the code. As a exclusion criteria. And now we'll be back to where we started. So the other thing I thought would be worthwhile having a look at is to see how June's been tracking, and is the settings that we have for June, well, for our entire backtest, is those settings still relevant? So we could do a bit of optimization for the more recent past and decide if the parameters needs to be tweaked. It's not really something that should be done lightly, because it could lead to over optimization of the strategy, um, which is then what do you get? You sort of goal seek the perfect market, and of course that market won't necessarily exist into the future. So uh, shouldn't be done lightly. But uh, the reason I do want to show this to you. So let's remove, as you know, I've got a moving average that helps us trade with the trend. I've got the monthly exclusions. I've got the day of the week exclusions, um, which is Mondays. So if we were to remove all of that, you will get a very different picture of the strategy. And let me show you what that looks like. So removing day of week and the month and the EMA. Right, so now there's no filters. This is the raw strategy as Tom would trade it. And you can see that this strategy has got it goes hot and cold, really. It's the best way to describe it. Let me expand this a little bit. Oh, looks like I have to shrink that. Or is it this? No, that's weird. It won't let me. Okay, so it's got it's quite a hot and cold or seasonal pattern over time. So you'll see that for a long period it works, roughly from up to April 2016. So starting here, April 15. So for a year it worked. Then it didn't work for another year, even more, to October 2017. So about 18 months it didn't work. Then it started working again. Then it flatlined. Then it underperformed. And now here from when the market turned fairly volatile, 15 November 2021, right up to November 2022, it worked well again. And now it's underperformed for the last few months, and it's sort of flatlining again like we did over here. So the strategy, 45% win rate, just on its own, it's not perfect. But again, Tom doesn't trade it for 68 points. He'll go for 20 or 30. Um, it's rare that he'll get a big win out of this, because he doesn't have the time, and it's very tiring to sit on stream with an audience for 1 to 2 hours. Um, you sort of reach your limit at that point. I've tried it, and I can find that it's just hard. You can't sit there for 6 to 8 hours with the audience. It's very draining. So, understandably, mm, it's it's not the same strategy that he actually puts out for you guys to trade with him personally. Um, what will happen if we set the TP to something like 30 and sort of replicate what he does on stream? So I've now set the TP to 30 points. Just focusing on this win rate, really. Overall performance also. Okay, so now we have a 60% win rate, much better. Still very strong. What's it doing? Oh, the code wants to run at a tick by tick level. Oh, wow. Okay, so I had to tell it to ignore tick by tick because it was too, with the small TP, it needed to know much more of the granularity of the price movements. So now actually this thing says we would have run out of money. Okay, that's not so maybe I'll do a shorter period. Let's do a shorter period. Keep the TP the same. Hopefully it asks me the question again so I can say it should use tick by tick. Alright, so now it's using tick by tick, but it's gonna use less data. Right, what's it doing now? It's only, running for a really short period. Okay, I'll have to change the bar. So now we can really only run it for from May 2020. May 2020, that's about, we're now in 2023, so that's going to be about, let's go for 80,000. Still too much for it actually, it won't be able to, can only do 5,000 bars tick by tick. I'll make it 5,000 bars and get it over with. Right. It's really just the last 3 months, of which one we would normally not trade, but okay. Anyway, 64% win rate, but a gain loss ratio of 0.97, resulting in a risk reward ratio of 0.53. Explains why the strategy can't make money, because your win rate is not sufficient to compensate for the fact that we've got a 30 TP but a 90 stop loss. So when you lose 3 times more. All right, so I guess we should change. We should change that. So let's introduce a stop loss of 30, but we'll leave the candle size. Or is it that candle size? Yeah, the candle size limitation will remain, but the stop loss is now 30. So at least we've got a one-on-one risk to reward relationship. Okay, so now we're losing 45%, winning 45% of the time. Uh, Still not quite worthwhile. Yep. So my point is, if you want to trade the strategy, mm, like Tom do, I can't test that for you. You know, it's just different. Right. So, which was the point of all of it is I went back to the pure form of it. All right. Cool. So let's reintroduce our parameters. TP is 68. And introducing the filters. No trading on Monday. No trading on the bad months. And using the exponential as the trend indicator. Trade with trend. Right? And we'll be able to increase the history now as well soon enough. Right. Okay, back to where we were. Right. So the strategy has deteriorated slightly from the last tests we were doing, 53%, then now only a 50.93% win rate. Excuse me. Okay, so bear in mind that the data for the testing does get affected by the beginning days of the testing period that drops off because we have a limit of 200,000 bars we can test. So you can see here that our start was 11 November 2014. Right now it's 30 March 2015. So whatever the trades were doing between November and March, those 4 or 5 months, if they were more positive then, and if I go back to this starting chart here, which is probably all these trades here, you can see it was quite good. Over here, it's also good, but we've lost the beginning bit here, which was good, and over here we were sort of ending there, right? November. So this ended at February. Okay, February sits over here. Yeah, so since then we've sort of replaced a really strong performance and only added a mediocre performance, which is explaining why the win rate is dropping slightly. All right. I'm wondering if the re-optimization will do us any good at this stage, given that May and January didn't really trade. So it just gives us additional February data to bring in, plus December. December was a bit, zoom in a bit here. Yeah, December was negative. also quite flattish. So I don't think the trading optimization is going to tell us anything new. Okay, so let's leave that for now. I wanted to move on to a different video anyway. Um, so I want to prepare some work to do that. Lastly, what I'm working on currently is to start a Patreon channel. The Patreon channel has actually already been created, and the name will be Algo Trading Club, I believe. Sorry, Algo Research Club. And this is where I want to, number one, share my code. Two, share all the lessons of backtesting. And the purpose of it is really to create a group of people that can bring their findings to the club, and that we get the benefit of more than one person testing and making discoveries on these algos. You might find a new market that it works well on and tell others about it. You might be able to find new parameters. There's just so many permutations, and I also wanted to help you guys to code. It's actually not that difficult. This language makes it really, really simple. And if you can think of if then this happens, and if not something else, if you can think like that, you can write code. This is how simple this platform is. In addition to that, there's huge advances being made with ChatGPT, and we can take our ideas and ask ChatGPT to help us to create the code. So that is very exciting, and it will really help us all to explore more ideas quickly and get to implement them fast. All right, let's leave that at this point now, and I'll update the spreadsheet to bring in the new trades for the last period, and I'll see you soon. Cheerio.